This is my third time at Doctors 2.0, and I have to tell you, that's the best one. When I was standing here last year, I described how I crowdsourced diagnosis on Twitter and how I have been using many social media platforms in medicine and healthcare. I also mentioned that my childhood dream was to become a geneticist. And last November, after finishing medical school, then finishing PhD in clinical genomics, I fulfilled my childhood dream, and then immediately I tried to find a new challenge. And after some weeks, I had to realize the challenge is not ahead of me, but I have already been working on for many years now. I have witnessed over the years social media platforms come and go, many of them vanishing after a few months or years. I saw amazing examples how e-patients and medical professionals can use social media efficiently. I saw some new mobile platforms. I have my own AliveCore iPhone bracket with which I can do an ECG myself. I expect that patients in a few years' time will be able to measure anything about themselves, from clinical parameters to ECG and even genomic data. Or here is Canadu, a good example for that, which will let you measure your body temperature, your heart rate, blood pressure, many of these health parameters yourself at home. And then Rafael Grossman let me wear his Google Glass, and just imagine that in the near future, surgeons' operations will be recorded from the surgeon's point of view, and the recordings will be analyzed for potential medical mistakes, not by people, but by IBM Watson supercomputer. And maybe the next big thing is smartwatch from Apple. So the technologies come and go as well. And what I realized is that I was a geek before I became a doctor. Therefore, I should somehow merge these two features of mine. So the next step was quite clear. I should become a futurist. And how easy it is. Everyone knows how to become a futurist. I didn't. There is no university course for that. There is no programs for that. So I thought I should discover it myself, step by step, how you become a futurist from a doctor. And I started documenting the steps myself on my blog. So the first step was quite simple, the decision. Why would I become a futurist? The reason why is I love challenges. And when I saw an article containing pictures painted by 18th century French painters, and their job was to predict the future, what the future would look like in 2000, so in 200 years' time. Some examples, what they came up with. Regarding movies, they had quite a good prediction, but when their job was to predict microbiology, here's what they came up with. So you have bacteria in a petri dish, they somehow extrapolate them onto a screen, and they try to administer poisonous gas to the shadows of the bacteria, but the bacteria are still in the petri dish. So they got it wrong. And then my favorite one, education. You put books in a machine, you use it, and all the information will be digested into the heads of students. Well, I would love it to work it that way, but it doesn't. So it's quite a big challenge to predict the future. And in medicine and healthcare, it's almost a mission impossible. The second step was the filter. Like I mentioned last year, how I filter the web by creating human networks, using human intelligence and not just algorithms and social media platforms. So I had to readjust my system to get news, information, data from these new fields of interest. So when I checked these online communities, I knew which articles I should read myself. They filtered the web for me, just like how I filter the web for them, by sharing articles I find interesting every single day. I also had to read some books in this area, like the Personal Genomics book, the newest one, The Third Wave, an amazing futurist book from the 1980s. Every word is still right in that book. And then things like A Futurist, Singularity is Near, The Creative Research of Medicine, all these books helped me readjust my way of thinking in research. I was born in genetic research. It means that I had a way of thinking in genomics. I knew those statistical methods, but now I had to learn some new tricks, some new statistics, some new methodologies. The third step might be the most interesting one. I wanted to attend Futuremed, an amazing course at the NASA campus in Moffett Field, California, and applied, and I got admission, so I spent over a week at Futuremed seeing the near future of medical technology. One of the participants was there in that form as a robot. We could talk with each other, we saw each other. He had his own badge, obviously, and sometimes he bumped into me because it was quite hard to look around from a robot. But in telemedicine, expect that in huge countries with amazing distances, when there's a shortage of doctors and they have to be present at different places at the same time, it's now possible. And then 3D printing, the dentist can actually print out in 3D the patient's jaw based on the radiology images of the patient, and they can show the patient that that's your teeth right now, and we're gonna do some changes, it will look like that, and they can print it exactly the same way. But the fourth step comes to Futuremed. I saw all these amazing technologies from medical robotics to genomics, and they asked me to give a talk about how I use social media as a physician. And I did my talk, and I talked about crowdsourcing, how I built my online profiles using human intelligence, not just algorithms, and I was just stunned and surprised by how much the audience, full of innovators and professors, were surprised by these opportunities that social media can provide. They loved medical technology, they loved robotics and genomics, but they were surprised how useful medical communication can be. Everyone in medicine is using medical communication. We communicate with our peers, with the patient, even with information. So we all have to deal with medical communication. And they thought that's just a new way of doing things in this area. So I realized that's my mission, to, of course, deal with the advances of medical technology, but also focus on social media, put a large emphasis on social media, which led me to the fifth step. Maybe I should not become a futurist, but instead I should become a medical futurist. Futurists deal with the basic changes of economy, the structures of society, but I wanted to purely focus on the advances in medicine and healthcare and try to implement those into everyday medicine. That's where I'm right now, and just to prove the point, just to give you one more notion, that it has started several years ago, this new career of mine. About 2 years ago, I was asked by a US company to give them an opinion about what the healthcare system would look like in 2050. And the problem is, they asked me to do this in 140 characters, in one tweet. It was more challenging coming up with this tweet than to come up with long essays. But I did my best and I came up with that. In 2050, healthcare will be transparent. Decision trees for patients will be available for everyone. Online content will be curated. Patients will be empowered. Medical professionals will be web savvy, and collaborative barriers will be gone forever. Maybe that's the best way I can summarize the near future of medicine. Because right now, the healthcare system is something like this. The basic structure is given by pharma companies and payers and insurance companies. And then the most important elements in this system are medical professionals. And these stakeholders sometimes might mention patients. It's going to change. A revolution is going on. In a few years' time, we will still have pharma companies, healthcare professionals, payers as the elements giving the structure of the healthcare system, but we're going to have patients in the focus, empowered patients. It has already begun. ePatients Dave published his book, Let Patients Help, a few weeks ago. The very night I got this book, I read it twice. I was amazed by that. And I immediately sent a tweet to Dave saying that every medical student in the world must read your book, Dave. How shall we achieve that? And right now, we are in the process of translating it into several languages, into Spanish, Greek, Hungarian languages. And my mission is to make sure every medical student graduating the next 5 years from medical school must read this book. They have to get a good picture, a clear picture about how to deal with the patients. So we are on this track right now. But I thought, as a medical futurist, I should come up with some final conclusions, some suggestions. The first is we have to empower even more patients. And that's what we have been doing on Webicina by providing curated collections. By curation, I mean we manually select the world's best medical social media resources, focusing on medical specialties and conditions with the help of expert patients and medical professionals worldwide in over 100 medical topics and 20 languages for free for everyone. And the second, if we want to fill healthcare with medical professionals who are proficient at using technologies, We have to train them like that. That's why I launched the world's first course at the University of Debrecen 5 years ago, and I've been teaching medical students for 5 years now, for 10 semesters, over 1,000 of them, about how to use the internet in a basic format, how to use social media platforms efficiently, and how to deal with e-patients. And then when I gave a talk about this course at Stanford University, when I went back to Hungary, I got an email from a physician based in London saying that he would love to come to Hungary every single week for 1 day just to attend my course, because they didn't have such a course in London. So I thought an e-learning platform is very much needed, and I created this social media course, a free course containing 16 presentations, Prezi presentations, extended handouts, references, and tests. Because there is some gamification behind that. Right now, over 1,500 students, actually, and more physicians are doing the lectures and working for the badges. And if they get all the badges, they get the ultimate expert badge and a certification. So far, about 35, 40 physicians and students have finished the test successfully. And my motto is, if you want to teach me, you first have to reach me. Therefore, this semester, I asked my students in an online questionnaire, which online platform do you use every day? And 100% of them replied, every one of them are using Facebook. So, from now on, during the semester, every single day, even on weekends and holidays, I published challenge questions on Facebook about digital literacy. And I try to teach them where they are on Facebook. And the student who won the competition, at the end of the semester, he didn't have to take the exam. All the other students hated him, but he could skip the exam. And I believe that it's very important to go back to the traditional way of education. And when I did a digital academy for 200 medical professionals, all of them over 50 years old, it was quite a hard population to teach digital tricks. And my job was to teach them some tricks from the morning until 5 p.m., from the basics of internet to crowdsourcing on Twitter for medical purposes. And after the course, there was a 60-year-old GP who told me that the course was amazing and he would love to learn about these digital tricks, but he used to study from textbooks, and he's old now and he can only learn about these digital tricks in an offline format. So he wanted a book, and for the last 10 months, I've been working on this handbook, Social Media in Clinical Practice. That's the world's first handbook focusing on social media from the clinical perspective. It means it doesn't contain essays and concepts. It contains real step-by-step guides, how to use Facebook, Twitter, Wikipedia, blogs, mobile apps, all these social media platforms and channels in a clinical practice, point by point, step by step. It should come out this July in about 4 or 5 weeks. And then that's the first time I announce it, but if everything goes well, from next semester, we will launch a new course at Semmelweis University, Disruptive Technologies in Medicine, containing lectures and seminars about genomics, imaging health, telemedicine, mobile health, medical robotics, big data, biotechnology, all these disruptive technologies bringing changes to everyday medicine. I believe that the medical education right now prepares students for today's technology, but by the time they graduate in 4, 5, 6 years' time, technology will be absolutely different. So right now, we have to prepare them for a world they will face by the time they graduate from medical school. And that's the mission of this course. And the third thing here, I think we have to change or try to change the approach of pharma companies and payers and insurance companies. And if we cannot do that, then the large number of e-patients and web-savvy medical professionals will do so. So my final message here is keep calm and focus now. We have a momentum now. We have been talking about the use of social media for many, many years. We have seen plenty of evidence-based studies focusing on that. We have to start implement these into the everyday practical medicine. That's our responsibility now, to bring this knowledge, these opportunities and advantages into the everyday practical medicine. So let's start implementing those right now. And even if medicine, the practice of medicine must happen in real life, in person, my role as a medical futurist is to fill the gap between empowered patients and their not that technology-savvy professionals, as well as between any kind of digital or disruptive technologies and everyday practical medicine. So let's tweet in touch. Thank you for your attention.